Hello.
Welcome to the second recap for
Yes.
Higurashi.
Higurashi.
That's the one. It's the one where we talk about cars.
Yes, that's right. I wasn't particularly sure if I wanted to do a recap for this one because this is the recap where we go back over what we've done since we finished recording the arc. But not much has happened, right?
Yeah, there's not as much to talk about. It's a shorter arc. We've had less time. We've also been very busy in IRL time. We could record a recap for this being like a waffling tangenty mess, but we're gonna give it a go anyway. We're gonna give it a whack.
Yes.
We have a good old time, I hope.
I do want to say though, having said that we might not have done a recap for this one, that's not to say that there wasn't anything to pick out. It's just that not much has happened for us to allow us to say much more. Yeah,
because this is, after all, the second recap where technically we're supposed to talk about, production stuff. I remember we used to talk about our favorite new voices for the arc. Do you have one? Do you have a favorite voice for this arc?
I mean,
it can't be Akasaka.
It can't be. That's just an absolute cop-out.
And I can't pick Rika's adult voice, so, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, also, back then it was when we were first getting into, doing voice acty type stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a lot more of a chance for us to say, this is what we think we're doing good at in voice acting, this is what we're doing bad at in the performance. We're obviously we're still doing pretty fucking rubbish at a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's fun though.
But we're going in with a lot more confidence at it. I mean, especially voices Sadako's. I'm confident that sounds like a very distinctive, clear voice that I'm able to be more or less emotive with. I still hate trying to cry when I'm voice acting.
And she does it a lot.
Yeah. That's the main problem I have with that one.
Yeah.
I think you'll notice that going through consistently is anytime a character is crying, I'm just how do I get this across without actually doing it? Because I can fake tears really easy. I can't fake crying easily.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Well, the fun part, of course, is that if you actually cry, if you actually make crying sounds, that might not come through very well.
Yeah.
Or you might overdo it, and now you can't read the screen, or you can't do the voices properly because you're well, now I'm sad. Crying is one of those emotions that it's not easy to pull back from. I find anger's easy.
Yeah.
I am so mad, and I am going to rip you a new one, and then I'm okay, we're calm.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the reasons I have so much respect for people who do a proper good job at expressing emotions like that when they're voice acting, because I find that so much harder.
Yeah, it's hard. It's fun though. That's why we still do it.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah,
we should open this up.
Theory time? Yep, theories? No theories.
We gotta talk about how this is the dodgy arc first.
Oh no! All right, here we go.
I mean, as we've spoken about in the previous recap and this one, I haven't edited the previous recap yet, full disclosure, so if we repeat some stuff, I'm sorry.
It's alright. We're busy. We understand. I mean, I understand. I don't know about the audience.
Yeah, I mean, this arc clearly wasn't given the time it deserves. The translation's a bit dodgy, the arc itself, just at face value, is a bit dodgy. We already spoke a bit about how...
Jerry, shout to Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry, and that scene just did not land.
Do you remember what his actual name is? Or his previous name before we dubbed as Tashiki. I know Inugai, but Tashiki I will never remember.
I had to manually put Jerry over the top every time.
I know I was very impressed. Your dedication, sir.
We were originally just going to go replace it in the game script.
Yeah.
But I don't know why we didn't.
Yeah. I don't know why you didn't either.
It's so much easier to just go in and edit the code.
Yeah, fair enough. I will say though, on that topic of rushing and not giving enough time as it needs, Ryukishi was writing this while writing Mayakashi, which is fun. And we have heard from Rockmore, shout out to Rockmore, again, in a lot of the production diaries that Ryukishi wrote at the time, talking about how, he used to write during his holidays from working full time. And then he wrote that his work didn't realize, the importance of holidays, so now he has to write at work and, finding just a couple of minutes, scribble down a few lines or a few ideas and kind of work from there. I definitely appreciate where he's come from in that regards, having no resources, having a budget of $0 and just trying to throw something together while also having all these other commitments to do. It's terrifying, the idea.
It is.
It's amazing that he even managed to write these damn arcs in the first place. But that said, this is the arc that suffers the most from that. You can tell that it's it's kind of a filler arc.
Yeah.
It's got less stuff going for it. It's a lot of information, but less it's got less of a through line with the other arcs, I suppose. I don't know. I feel like
I don't know. The way that I see it, I might have said it in the previous recap, is that we've spoken about how all of the other arcs so far could have stood on their own as a standalone story.
Yeah.
Like, they would have been obviously better with a lot of them, but you could have read them, had a decent mystery, and that was that. This one didn't quite reach the benchmark. Not to say that the story couldn't have stood on its own, but it didn't quite, like, stand out enough to be a story on its own. It very much felt like the companion piece to the rest of the story.
I mean, there's a reason why in the anime it only got, like, 2 episodes. 40 minutes for that whole thing.
But this is a point you made originally that... Like,
which point?
Just because this is the worst arc, just because, you know, it's not as strong as all of the others, doesn't mean that you should skip it.
Yes. The point that I was specifically making was about, like, a lot of shonen anime and manga. Like, if you go and try and, like, read or watch One Piece now, for example, like, I'm pretty sure it's still going on at the time of recording, like, veterans will tell you which arcs you should skip and which ones you should not skip, right? I've experienced this on a lower level with the Clone Wars series, where somebody's put together a list of, like, out of the 6 seasons, you should watch, like, episodes 1 and 3 of season 1, and then 2 and 4 of season 2, and then all of season, you know, they're like, this is the stuff that you should read. And I definitely don't think that you should skip Higurashi. I think that it is worth reading, if only because of all the extra clues and the extra bits of information and some of the cooler stuff that happens. It's Ryukishi's first fight scene. It's weird, creepy Rika with the weird voice that nobody knows where it came from. Like, there's a bunch of stuff in here that is interesting to read, but as a whole, it just doesn't hold up as well as his other work, I suppose.
I do also wonder in that regard if there's some things like, you know, Ryukishi's pretty good at doing his foreshadowing game.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff in Himatsubushi that I feel like maybe was thrown in here because he maybe thought that it was stuff he hadn't foreshadowed early enough.
Yeah, maybe. Sure.
Like, you know, let's say, like, creepy demon voice Rika shows up, you know, 2 arcs down the line, and it's like, hey, what's going on here? But it's just thrown into a scene with our regular cast, so it seems way more out of place, whereas we have, like, this pretense here.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we're encouraged to kind of step back and appreciate the events of this arc, as you should not be trying to solve these unless, you know, there's that bit at the start of the arc. But the main thing you kind of take away from it is that we are giving you information to make the answer arcs an easy transition.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, we haven't read all of Higurashi yet, but I think that you've found that to be the case.
Yeah.
That it is a good primer, you know, going back to the past and having all this extra information and seeing all these, you know, Oishi in a different light and Rika in a different light, seeing some of the characters who have gotten less screen time, maybe even, you know, having that time to breathe. And shoring up some of the events of the past, that when we get to Higurashi, we are fully prepared to investigate everything from a more objective perspective, I suppose. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, there was an interesting comment that someone posed in that regard on a recent video of Himatsubushi, which was something along the lines of, it would be very in character for Ryukishi to have someone like Irie, for example, have, like, a dark, spooky undertone to his, like, you know, creepy, upbeat uncle thing. And, you know, I think that that's definitely true. I think that probably is the case. He does have a dark undertone to it. But the comment was more in regards of, you know, who I thought the culprit was. Whereas to me, Irie, like, you could say that his guilt is what's driving that personality. Like, maybe he's having to do some slightly horrific things he doesn't like. And him being nice to everyone in this weird, fun, goofy way is his way of, like, trying to, I guess, atone for that.
Maybe.
Would be my immediate guess. Like, and I like the way that it introduces and fleshes out those characters without explicitly giving us answers.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely one of the strong suits of this arc.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, yeah, I mean, I will always be the advocate for Higurashi being a blending of light and dark. It has that balance between the, you know, cute, happy, fun club games and the maid outfits, the twirling and the Retta punching, the slapstick comedy, and then on the other side you've got horrible, bloody murder. Yeah. Right? Like, I will always be a proponent for that. I think that most of my, like, criticisms of some of the anime only stuff has been that, you know, it errs more on one side than the other. We'll get into that maybe when we watch the anime for ourselves, but, like, I think that if you don't have that balance between the bad shit going wrong and the good stuff going right, then it's not Higurashi. But I think that this arc does a really good job of that, of not having the kind of traditional horror tone that he has for the first 3 arcs. You know, when things go wrong, they don't go wrong in like so much in that horror sense. Like when we're Akasaka moving through the village, meeting all the old people, like, well, that's a dilly of a pickle. Like, it's not. Then I heard a wolf in the forest, and I realized that it was carrying the arm of my unborn infant. You know, it's not like weird and creepy. It's just like it's a little bit creepy, but it's not on that same scale. You know?
Yeah, it's more.
And it's punctuated by Rika turning up, like one of the cutest characters in the damn series.
Yeah, it's more creepy in context than it is inherently creepy, which is a nice way to frame
things. It's not as visceral, I think, is probably the word that I'm looking for. And yeah, I think that it does a really interesting, like, it's an interesting change of pace, being a fully like narration or kind of exposition focused arc. It's more focused on giving you stuff to think about than it is on that day-to-day life kind of feel that the other ones have, if that makes any sense.
And I think that the slice of life in this arc was definitely some of the most convincingly delivered. Like, to the point where it took someone commenting and going, I bet you didn't see an Oishi club scene for me.
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
It's great. It's fantastic. I'm so glad that Ryukishi made that happen. As confusing as it was to voice.
Yeah.
Give him some damn sprites.
I know.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't have the budget. He was working 9 to 5 back in the day. Yeah, that said, I did want to mention that as like something that is like problematic in my mind, and this is something again that I haven't fully fleshed out in my head, but that the first 3 arcs I think have like a stronger moral through line. Like, they have a message that they're trying to teach you.
Yeah.
But I don't think that this arc really has that. Like, in each of the arcs, Keiichi does something stupid and he dies at the end, right? Like, that's like how that works. In this one, Akasaka doesn't listen to the fortune tellings of a small child, and thus he is punished for this sort of. But like that, like, what is the message there? What is the like relatable community focused message? Is that you should listen to small children in dark alleyways? Like, what is happening?
Do you think that was trying to be a message at all?
I don't think so. And that's the thing that's kind of interesting to me, because when I read a piece of media, I'm looking for like, what is the narrative pushing? What is the moral here? You could probably argue that the moral that Ryukishi's, or the lesson that he's trying to teach us through this arc is like about futility, like by insinuating all this stuff about Rika and the like. We'll get into this in a second because I know you're just itching for a theory, but like the fortune telling and like you can't, you know, like when Akasaka is like, oh, we found this wallet and we're going to use it to find Jerry, it's going to be great. And there's like, but was all this planned? Was I even needed to be here? Have all of my actions been for naught? Was that wrestling scene completely rigged and staged?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
To me, the moments you're describing, like particularly, you know, Rika saying like, go home or whatever.
Go home.
That wasn't
back,
meant
the
to
slab.
be teaching a lesson so much as it was meant to be foreshadowing the fact that Rika knows shit. So that when it happens at the end.
That's my point, is that like inherently any story, by the way that it's written, is going to have, you know, the good guys win and the bad guys lose, and this is why. And that's the message. But I don't think that Ryukishi really thought about the message for this arc.
Well, let's go back to the fact that this arc could or could not stand on its own.
Yeah,
I think that if you were to read this arc on its own, the message about what it's like to live in a society that's viewed from a different perspective, like, I think that's the lesson that we're teaching, but because that's been present the rest of the series, you aren't associating it with this arc.
I suppose that's what I should say, is that I'm more like, when I am looking for the like moral through line of the lesson, I am always like, what is the deep personal message? What is the character study moment? And I don't really think that that's present, but that's like that's what I'm interested in. That's the sort of stuff that I really vibe with. It's why certain arcs, you know, interest me more than others. When we get into like, this is what makes this character tick. And I think that that like idea, that way of approaching a character and approaching like a moral through line is much more present in the first 3 arcs. I don't really think there is that. I don't like, there is sort of a hero's journey in that Akasaka's like, now I gotta go kick someone's butt, but he doesn't really. It's all Oishi because he's the best.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's something people disagree with me in the comments, but I feel like the kind of morality like compass is like less, it's just less relevant. It's more about like telling you about the town and the environment that the story takes place in. It's less about telling you about, you know, Akasaka's journey to enlightenment or whatever, you know, like to figuring out what's going wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that still feels like a moral lesson to me, though it's clearly not the kind of one that you're looking for, which is totally fine.
It's just not as personal, and that's what I'm interested in.
But yeah, let's jump to those theories, which I am itching for.
I know you are.
I think the main thing that stood out to me this arc in editing is that I feel it would be so much easier to just go, it's magic.
Would.
And I mean, obviously, thematically, that's kind of where Ryukashi is going with it. You know, the whole idea that it would be so much easier if it was just some god that we could blame it all on.
It would be.
And I think that it would be pretty easy to say that, like, you know, considering the repeating timelines, considering that Rika knows what's happening, we're just doing a Groundhog Day.
Yeah, dude.
Like, that seems totally in character for the thematics that we've had introduced.
But you're not going to take that sitting down.
No, exactly. Like, I think that that's obviously the implication the story is trying to present, but I'd very much like to try and figure how it could work otherwise. Like, because if I was to say that, you know, Rika is, as I have in the previous recap, like, that Rika is involved with the quote-unquote culprits, like, that would then explain why she knows what's going on. If it's, you know, if it's the same group of people that are pushing the incidents as are responsible for the kidnapping of Jerry, then, you know, it would make sense that that organization knows what's going on and maybe Rika's heard about it through them. But then there's the inherent contradiction of the fact that Rika knows she will die but doesn't know who did it.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? If you have a character who is supposedly precognizant, but they're like, I don't even know what's happening. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because like in the Groundhog Day type thing, it's like if she's died, she doesn't know what happens after her death because she goes back to the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But there's also this weird moment which I hadn't actually noticed until Ben pointed it out to me. I'll put it on screen.
Yeah, throw it up.
Was the handkerchief comment here about the death that's unrelated and how it's like, you know, it's calm and...
Yeah, because the question that I kind of would ask you was whose death is that?
Like, I feel my immediate reaction looking at this line is that this is just a, like, I guess, allegory for the gas attack. The idea that, like, killing people in their sleep is a calm and, I guess, humane way.
You think that's the final death?
Yeah, but I don't think that that's unrelated, which is why I'm not confident about that.
Sure.
Like, I guess you could say that all of the killings and stuff within the club and Tepe and all of that, that's, like, merciful in the sense that they're all done to help the people in those situations, because those are the kind of perspectives we're getting. But, you know, that's obviously a bit of a stretch, because, you know, Keiichi just fucking kills his friends in the first one, and then Mion and Shion in the second one. Like, I guess you could say it's to help one of them live out without having the shadow of the other over them, but that's
identity! Let's talk about that in Higurashi!
Just not happening. So, I don't know, that's definitely a weird one. That's definitely stumped me more than I thought it would.
Sure. I mean, this is why I bring up these random lines. Like, when I first went up, you were like, that does not exist. I do not know where that has come from. Handkerchiefs? Who needs them? But yeah, there may be some significance there yet, sir.
Yeah, like...
Or maybe not. Maybe I'm just misleading you.
There's also this, like, tone going through, especially some of this arc, where the narration knows more than the characters.
Yeah.
Like, we've already had last arc where Keiichi knew Ueshi's name before he said it and before he appeared on screen, and maybe that's a translation thing? I don't think so. Seems a bit too deliberate. But, like, in this arc, there was this moment where the narration was like, the minister promised to use his considerable influence. And it didn't read like a prediction. It didn't read like a guess to me. It read like something with foresight. So, I don't know, maybe that's the thematic that I should be paying attention to, that the people narrating.
I was going to say, you have your Akasaka Oishi culprit authorship theory.
Well, I mean...
How's that going?
The authorship theory is presented by the story, right?
Sure.
It's pretty open about it at the end of this arc. The question is, how much does that... how can you imply that over the rest of the story? And I... Jeez. Like... I think that it would be pretty easy to do, to just say that, like, this is their writing and this is how they're looking back, and maybe each arc is like a hypothesis of how things could have happened or did happen.
I mean, do you think that Oishi would write himself as a vaguely antagonistic force?
I mean...
Just a question, you know, I don't want to... Yeah, you think so?
Because, I mean, if they're trying to explore, like, if you were to take them as the authors and look at how they're presented each arc, you could take it as them trying to explore how different interpretations of themselves could have changed things. Because, like, as I said towards, I think it was the beginning of Arc 3, how Oishi is, like, the tone setter for each arc.
Sure.
Right? He is the barometer by which we gauge how fucking insane things are going to go.
He is the barometer of death.
Right?
Excellent.
So, it would be very much a sensible suggestion, I think, to say that Oishi is setting himself as the barometer to see how he would, like, hypothetically construct this scenario around that to try to figure the rest of it out.
So then why is Akasaka not in the first 3 arcs? What's happening there?
Because Akasaka wasn't there in 1983, I guess. I don't know. Part of me is still expecting him to show up in 1983 in later arcs, as I mentioned earlier, but, like...
Who knows?
You know...
I mean, he's a character now, so who knows? Yeah. Who knows? He might show up wearing a cape next time.
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely weird. I do think that the story has not yet completely trapped me into a magic solution.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will. I think that you could very easily go through and with, like, a few grabbings of foreshadowing and hints say that, like, you know, every time that the culprit's done, like, the person who's done the murders each arc has done something, they've gone and spoken to Takano, and maybe we don't get to see the fact that Takano's doing, you know, doing some mind games to get them to act, which is, like, I guess most obvious in Arc 3. And, like, a lot of the crimes are relatively straightforward, and, like, I don't think it would be difficult. It's just, like, the story is not leaning heavily that way for you to...
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that you're kind of struggling with is the fact that, like... Because you've come from Mineko, which does have, like, clear-cut clues, and there are moments where you can be like, oh, I see, that line of dialogue is, like, the whole fucking story.
Yeah.
I don't think that Higurashi has as much of that. It is more broad, in a sense. Like... I don't think that Ryukishi came in with as focus of an idea, if that makes any sense.
I don't necessarily agree. I definitely think that there are moments where, like, the story is told you, as I think I pointed it out before now. Maybe it was in Miyakashi, so you guys will see it soon. But there was a line towards the end of, like, Tatari Gurushi where Keiichi's like, just imagine if I'm in a hospital bed lying down, and I'm like, that's what's happened to fucking Satoshi. He's stuck in the goddamn hospital, hidden... you know, patrolled by the mountain dogs or whatever.
Sure.
Like, I do think that those moments are there. I just think that the way that they're framed in this story, where it's not addressing itself as a murder mystery, means that they're more innocuous in a way.
Yeah, I think that might be a better way of putting it. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a difficult thing to nail down, but because it's still Ryukishi writing, and he writes the way that he writes, but... I definitely think that, like, if someone is reading a Mineko and they're not trying to solve the mystery, I'm like, what are you even doing, dude? But if someone's reading Higurashi and they're like, oh, I don't know, I'm just kind of enjoying going along with the characters, I'd be like, that's fine. Like, I don't think that it is as important to trying to figure things out. I think that it is less clear-cut. I don't think that there is no foreshadowing for things. I'm not saying that Ryukishi is just pulling shit out of a hat, but he clearly, like there is more room for just kind of waffling around and enjoying the story. I think is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. Like, obviously, I have less time now than I did when we went through Umineko to just sit down and, like, this is the solution to everything.
Sure.
Because, like, let's be completely fair. The reason I was able to confidently go through that story, to say nothing of how successful I was because I just had so much fucking time to just sit there and pick it to pieces.
I mean, same, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have as much things to solve, but I had time to, like, go through, like, half the novel and, like, find lines that was significant and do research and all this other stuff. We're busy boys now, which is good. It's a good thing, but it means we have less time for everything collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, like... There's certain things like the tip, the Gears Fire and Taste of Honey, which is
an excellent tip.
It's a great fun tip. All the tips are really lovely.
Shout out to it's the blood.
You trying to remember?
Spills at dusk.
Yes.
Tastes like honey.
Ah, there you go.
There's some Higanbana.
Higanbana.
Yeah, that's where that track's from. Throwback, boys. Shout out to Higurashi. She's a good girl.
Like, that tip's really fun because if you take it with, like, the magic perspective, then it's like, you know, if we're doing the Groundhog Day thing, then Akasaka is the gear that's been thrown in to, like, try shake things up, and maybe he'll come back to the village and enact vengeance upon Takano in Arc 8.
Maybe it's what Arc 8 would. Maybe it will be a jump into the future, and they'll have, like, guns and shit.
So, like, you know, there's that interpretation of it, and then there's also just looking at how, like, all of these pieces are fitting together and the different ways that the gears turn can change the multiple outcomes, and it's an analogy for just how the story is unfolding different times each arc.
All sorts of fun stuff going on.
Yeah. I think it's really cool. I think that my perspective on this arc hasn't changed a lot going through and editing, but I definitely appreciate it more.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think it's a fine arc. It exists. I'll read it, but it's not one that I look forward to. Mind you, there's only like 2 arcs I'm really looking forward to.
I see.
One of which has already happened, so... So another thing I want to talk about.
Yes.
Because I've been meaning to, but fate has conspired against me, and the many fans of ours have been swamping me with requests for my time and money and my voice talent and all that stuff. Magician of Words. It's like a pretty cool phrase. It exists sometimes. It is. I'm not super happy with the fact that Manga Gamer decided to change that, which I'm sure they did it for various reasons. And there are a couple other scenes that I'm not happy with the change. They changed Flowers Bouquet back in Arc 1 back in the day. That's something I'm not super happy with because I just think that Flowers rolls off the tongue better. Anyway. But they changed Magician of Words to Magician of Duplicity, which does not roll off the tongue. There is no argument to be made there. As some of you may know, my username, Magus Verborum, comes from Magician of Words. That's literally what it means. Like, that's Latin for Magician of Words. Magus being the second declension nominative.
Declensions, you goddamn nerd.
Yeah, and and Verborum being the same, but it's the genitive plural form because it's of words.
Of course.
Anyway, Latin.
All of us know and understand.
I know, right? Look, I did Latin. I'm gonna use it somewhere. It's a dead language. No, it's not. It's evolved.
It's a very dead language.
No, dude, it's evolved. That's what my Latin teacher always used to say. But the point is,
I had a Latin teacher as well, and they're both wrong. That's what I'm telling you here and now.
Look, my
sorry,
teacher was
Mark,
fantastic.
You were wrong. Called out.
I don't remember my Latin teacher's first name. He's just Mr. Anderson. Which I don't even know if we should say that on recording, but whatever. There it is. Mr. Anderson, best boy. He made one student sit on another's back and pretend to be a horse archer.
We've told that story.
Have we?
We have.
Crap. Well, anyway, he was a good boy. Point is, so Magus Verborum, obviously, I chose as my username because I love Keiji so much. And, like, maybe this is, like, a full story for another time, but, like, I love language. I love, like, thinking about why people say what they do. I used to be, still sometimes, I'm the kind of person who likes to get involved with, like, especially when there are strange misunderstandings between friends. I used to be the person who would always, like, jump in the middle and try and, like, patch that up.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's too much time these days. I don't have enough time. But that's why I took that name in the first place. That's why I took Magician of Words. Because, like, hey, I'm kind of like Keiichi in his ability to, like, convince anyone of anything. Like, that was something that I, like, fully believed in back in the day. I've got a bit sloppy lately. But it definitely was something that I viewed as, like, a talent of mine. That I was a very good speaker. That I was very good at, like, persuading people and discoursing and all that sort of stuff. And that's why I chose that name in the first place. And to see my game change, it was very sad for me. And that's really all I wanted to say.
I mean, I think one thing that... I don't want to say it and be wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Go for it.
Is I feel like at least very few of the, like, translators for this, like, remake are fans.
I think that would be accurate. I don't want to call out any names or anything, but yeah, that's definitely the impression that I get. I don't think that many people working on the project, like, I should say, I have not had anyone, like, any of the translators or coders, like, be like, hey, I'm working on Higurashi. Like, I haven't seen that on Twitter. Maybe they're just quiet about it, you know? Higurashi fans rise up, but, like, I don't know what's happening there. It's...
Like, and it's not to say that the translation's bad. Like, sure, we have typos, But most of the stuff of that regard is just like, they're just memes. Like, bitching Satoshi is like, it's not a good translation. It's just a meme.
But it's sad that it's not there.
Yeah.
And it's sad, like, Magician Words in particular, I think they might have fixed it in later arcs. I can either confirm or deny this. But clearly when they wrote this, like, someone was not in the know. Whoever was looking over that particular part of the script, or whoever was in charge of overseeing that. And yeah, I don't know. It's there aren't too many egregious examples of that, of like the tone being completely ruined. This isn't an Umineko anime that just like shreds the source material. But there are definitely a couple of points where I'm like, hey, like, you can hear it in my voice, because in the moment I don't usually call it out when it happens, but I'll say a line and then just kind of trail off like, oh, I thought like that this was supposed to happen here. There were definitely a couple of other moments that I felt that way, but that was the big one. Because I think I even said in the video, I was like, oh, it's going to happen, they're going to say the thing, and then they just didn't say the thing. And I was like, oh, sad face. Because that's, like, in my mind, that's just such a big part of Keiichi's character.
I mean, it's like when you hear, like, music translated into other languages and you're, like, expected to hear something different and it just sounds wrong even though it's technically correct.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a weird experience.
I don't know, like, it made me kind of sad when I read that. And it's kind of weird to put into words, because I'm not going to, like, go campaign against it. I'm not going to, like, fight Manga Gamer over it, but I don't know. I mean, does anyone else have an example of, like...
Tell us in the comments.
Yeah, literally, tell us in the comments. I'd love to hear about other stuff that's been changed. It's, like, not okay.
Tell you what else nobody is speaking about, because we never goddamn bring it up in the recaps, even though we should.
Points?
It's almost become like our main in-joke at this point that we just never bring up the points.
What are we at? Do we know?
We're at 303.
How's your
333 rather to 486.
Oh, we're doing all right. We can catch up.
Yeah, we're doing fine.
Yeah, we're only halfway through. We got plenty of time. We're just gonna get 100 points.
Oh yeah, we added the new points graphic. Shout out to the new animations.
Yay! I'm glad.
I had so much fun making that. I was up way too late.
Yeah, you told me. Apparently that's what you do for fun, is you just make shit in Adobe Premiere Pro, which I'm
No, that was After Effects. Next tier up, boy.
God damn, I have to get on After Effects.
So complicated.
I know, right? I've been told that I need to use After Effects. Apparently, because my friend, he does photography.
I see.
Apparently, all the jobs that he's been going for are like, do you know how to use After Effects? And if you say no, you just get shunted immediately. So he needs to get on that. And I should probably as well. It's a very valuable skill to have.
It's pretty straightforward.
Working in media.
I would listen, audience, Ben, I would recommend learning yourself After Effects.
All right, let's do it.
If you're interested.
Audience, let's go learn After Effects.
This is the part where if we were more successful, we'd throw in a sponsor to some program that has...
Hashtag could be a spawn. Someone sponsor us. If you're an audience member and you could be a sponsor, if you're a rich Saudi prince, hit us up. Let's do it. We can make videos every day.
We could.
We can't, but we could.
We could.
We just need a lot more capital.
That's correct. Yeah, that's what we need.
Capital. We need money. That sick gold doubloons.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Anyway,
let's do a Umi spoilers section. So, if you are not on top of your life, I haven't read the whole way through Umineko.
We'll talk vaguely.
Abandoned ship.
Yeah, but thank you for coming, and we'll see you next one. It'll be a short ending anyway.
Yeah. Standard rules as always. No story spoilers, but context spoilers.
Okay, here we go.
Now, underneath the Umineko spoiler section here, Ben has left the just a big letter O. It's just there. I have no idea what it is. What is the O in the notes, Ben?
I mean, there's only one thing it could be. It's Okanogi. So this is something that I wanted to talk about. I wasn't sure if it's considered a spoiler or not, but it's like... So... Okanogi, not necessarily part of Himatsubushi as it is written in the VN, and in the anime it's just two random dudes, but the two kidnappers of Jerry, in the manga version, one of them is Okanogi.
Really?
So I just want to let you know that.
That's like fantastic.
It's a cool little detail. It's a shame I didn't know that before we did all that shit. I would have like made more of it actually do the Okanogi voice.
I mean, you more or less did.
I guess I did a pretty like okay job of it, but yeah. A younger Okanogi perhaps. But yeah. It's just a fun little detail that I wanted to mention to you, because it's kind of funny seeing how, you know, after Umineko became like successful and stuff, they were like, let's put these characters from Umineko like into Higurashi almost.
I mean, is that the case? Is that what happened?
I need to find out the release of the manga. Are you sure they're not just
the same character and it's all one big universe that's tied together?
I mean, who knows, dude? But like, that's the fun part, is trying to figure out where that where that through line is, that like line of events. I'll have to do some more research on that. But yeah, it's interesting.
I knew that Okanogi made an appearance at some point in this story. That was one of the pieces of information I knew going into this, so full disclosure there. So if that's, his appearance, that's kind of cool and goofy. He's still a military guy, still Taskmaster.
Yeah, we'll see if he appears again. But yeah, that's like, he's just one of the kidnappers, even though Rishi didn't necessarily like write him in as
that's pretty cool. Strange. He's obviously the hero of the whole franchise.
Obviously, he's the protagonist.
He's the one that comes up with the best quotes in Umaneko.
It's all about world peace.
Confirmed for Kikonia.
Yeah, it's about world peace. It's all that matters.
He's a miracle worker.
He's a good boy, and I'm looking forward to voicing him again in Kikonia, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Lord willing. As long as they're not like, he doesn't die in the first 5 minutes. That'd suck.
Yeah.
Rishi, if you do that, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
You reckon that the whole of Kikonia is just going to be about Okanogi's murder?
Dude, yes! That's it. Look, that is the only circumstance where like sets Okanogi's demise. It's like, who killed Okanogi? We gotta find out, and they're gonna find all like holograms of his like memory and stuff.
Such a parody of the series within itself.
That'd be so good. So good.
The other thing I wanted to talk about.
Oh no!
I don't have much to say.
Okay, it's not. I was gonna say there's nothing else in the notes, so this is free balling.
Yes, there is. It's right there at the top.
What? Oh, I guess. Okay, that's not in the movie spoiler section. You put it on the wrong section. Anyway,
I didn't put it in section.
Tell me what it is.
Was the way that this arc is very similar in its role in the story to Umaneko's episode 4.
Sure.
In that it's where we get a bunch of new characters, a bunch of new perspectives. We jump out of the timeline.
Yep.
Like, it's a very similar role, and I found that really interesting.
Yeah, it's the bridge from episode 3 to episode 5.
The further we get through this mighty Higurashi thingo, the more I realize that it's not just like the big components of there's a mystery, time's repeating, and all of those things that connect the When They Cry series.
Sure, yeah.
It's like the beats, the flow, the
beats.
patterns. They're all very similar in one way or another, and I wonder if that's more a reflection of just the way Ryukishi writes stories.
I mean, as far as we know, like, this was his first attempt. So, yeah, we've only had 2 examples, but it seems like he was like, man, that really, like, was a fun time when I wrote that Arc 4. It wasn't, like, super great, but it was cool to, like, add a bunch of new stuff. So what if we do that again?
Yeah.
And then we had a big finale with the fight scene on the end of episode 4, and then that can lead in episode 5.
I mean, it's like when you see those memes for, like, music and stuff, where it's like, what if this band wrote this song, and how all of this band's songs sound? Because there's when you create stuff, there's always similarities, and I think that's definitely
part
reflected.
Of writing or creating things.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think it was really cool getting to kind of get more in depth with that as we went through editing, and I was like, this is like that moment when this happened in Arc 4.
Yeah.
Even though there's no like direct parallels.
Yep.
Like, the scene in the Mahjong parlor very much reminded me of the way some scenes were presented at the beginning of Arc 4 in Umaneko, or Episode 4 in Umaneko. And like there's like tenuous connections, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he wrote one and then the other. Like, there's 10 years difference or whatever in there. So yeah, it's not exactly 1-to-1. But yeah, it's fun seeing how the way that he tries to write a story, the way that he wants to build from one idea to the next. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's about all I really had to say on like this. If we were to sit here and, think out discussion point after discussion point after discussion point, I'm sure there's endless discussions and parallels we could have about the similarities and differences between many things in Umaneko and Higurashi, but like, having edited, these are the ones that came to mind. So yeah.
For sure. Thanks for listening.
Next time.
Next time.